says that Vayigash of Yehuda, so Rashi says he started to talk to him Parshas. And it's interesting, he must have realized what they're doing, because it says in the Pasuk, after they found the cup, and they're going back, they said, Ha'ira, so Rashi brings down, it was like a little city of 10 people, a little village, little town, hamlet, whatever you want to call it, and they'll take it over and they don't care. And this is a metropolis of Mitzrayim, and Afal Pikain, they weren't scared, and they're going to start, so he saw there's going to be a war. So, I guess Yosef realized he's not going to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Like we said last time, what was he wanted to accomplish? Why did he cry when he heard the brothers discussing that why they're putting him in jail, why they're putting them in jail, saying because we didn't have pity when Yosef begged us and we didn't listen to him. And Reuben says to them, didn't I tell you he wasn't chayiv at all? And on that they didn't seem to agree. And they held that no, Yosef was wrong, and we had a right to put him where he wanted to, and he was a danger to us, and we definitely did the right thing. But we should have listened to pity. Pity we should have had. And on that he cried, because the whole thing that he's doing this for, is to trying to realize that they did wrong and to do tshuva on it, and they didn't. So anyway, here he sees the same thing, that they're starting to talk tough to him. That means it's not going to be a game anymore. In other words, before, just like they told him to do something, they listened right away. But now they say we're going to war. We're not playing games with you anymore. So then he said he kicked everybody out, and he cried that and when he identified himself to his brothers. And the question is again, why did he cry? Because he saw that what he wanted to accomplish is not going to be accomplished. They're not going to ask him mechila for what he did. They believed they were justified, and that's it. On the other hand, he realizes himself from the fact that he remembered the chalamis, that he did this only because of them, and that's what he says to them. Don't worry and don't be upset that you sold me here. God sent me to keep people alive for 2 years, and God sent me in order for you to be existent in the land. So now we know what the dreams all were about. It's about that I'm going to be the quartermaster as far as making sure you have enough food and everything else in Mitzrayim. And that was my purpose, and that was everything else. We would have understood it a long time ago. It would have been without aggravation. We didn't. Okay, but when did he first realize this? We said when the brothers came down to him. See, at the end of the Seder, it's going to make a difference. Okay. He says, God sent me here in order for this whole business, and go get my father. Again, he's under the impression there will be still 5 years of hunger. As soon as Yaakov comes down, the hunger ends. And the reason for it is because the whole purpose of the hunger was to get Yaakov to come down. Once he did, there's no reason for not to have hunger again. They do say that since it was foretold, again, doesn't see how it fits with the thing, that the 5 years of hunger came in when Yaakov died. In other words, to make up for the 5 years that should have been there, he's not here anymore, so now we get back to the 5 years of hunger. Now, what did they do for food? Did they have the old food still, in storage? Because once you're producing so much food, normally, what do you do with the old stuff? Or maybe took out the old stuff and you put in new stuff, whatever it is, but there was still enough food, obviously, to keep the people alive, because we don't find any mention of a new thing of 5 years of hunger. Actually, in the Torah, is such a major thing. Okay. Now, the disagreement between Paro and Yosef starts right over here. There's going to be disagreement, we'll show it in a few places, between Paro and Yosef, where the Jews should live. Yosef wants them to be separated and get married Goshen, and Paro wants them to live in Mitzrayim and to be assimilated. And the question is that what's going to happen, how we're going to do this, and you have two powers that are talking about it, and how they're going to try and get around each other. So it says over here, when Paro heard that the brothers are here, and the things he told them, and he was about the father, go bring them down here, and remember they should eat they'll eat the chayil of haaretz. That means the fat of the land they'll have. And I want you to give them I'm going to give you the best place in Mitzrayim to live. So I'm going to try and disagree a little bit with Rashi here, because Rashi seems to learn that Goshen, Eretz Ramses was in Goshen. And I want to claim that, and you'll see from the Psukim, that it seems to be that they're two different places. One is in Mitzrayim and one is Eretz Goshen. Vato Tzavesi, okay. On the other hand, the Yosef became a very big politician. Could be that's why he needed all these years being by Potiphera and even in the jail. Is how do you talk to somebody that you're the boss, but there's somebody on top of you? And that somebody that's on top of you doesn't usually bother you. How do you get them to agree to doing things that you want to do? I don't know how they did it, but basically that was what he was, because it says over here who sent the wagons and the agolis to Mitzrayim and the young calves, the calves to pick them up. Shechem says to me, he said, Paro said it. Paro did it, right? And yet, Rashi says that when he saw the agolis, he saw the young calves, he remembered he was learning Eglah Arifa with Yosef before. I was supposed to be the hint to show that I'm still around, I'm still the same Yosef, and didn't change. And you didn't send him. And Paro sent him. So obviously, he had to use some kind of diplomacy and saying, you told me to send wagons, so I sent wagons. If I need pulling, so let me pull some calves. Oh, maybe we should get some good horses or something. No, calves are fine or something like that. I'm sure you wouldn't want to send the horses anyway from Mitzrayim. If you notice, throughout the others, all the gifts that were given by Paro to anybody, the word horses was never there. It was only donkeys, shifches, avodim, camels, no horses. Horses the Mitzrayim reserved for themselves. That they have it, that's their army, that's their everything else, they have the horses. And the Mela that doesn't leave Mitzrayim. Okay. So this seems to be to start the... Now, there's an interesting thing, there's a lot of discussion on it, and we're not up to it. Okay. He saw them, okay. So he's decided to go and visit Yosef. He is definitely not under the interpretation that he's going to die there, or to be to the end of his life coming back. He went only for the hunger. That's what the purpose was. So, who's talking about this? Yisrael. Vayemi Yisrael. That's the stronger name of Yaakov, Yisrael. You fought Malachim, you won, you're a tough man. Rav Oid b'geis b'nei choy, he's alive, I'm going to visit him. Vayisa Yisrael, so Yisrael traveled. V'chol Asheloi, Vayevoy Be'Sheva, and he came to Sheva. Okay, and he made korbanos. God, here we saw. Remember, we said the Akedah was the next korban, that's sure. And here we see Noach korbanos again, which it does not say by any other others that they were makiv korbanos, just that they built a mizbeach, came to replace the mizbeach. Vayemel Kim Yisrael, so the Benisham comes to a nevuah, and he says to him, Yaakov. That's the weak name of Yaakov. And he says, I'm taking you down, don't be afraid of going to Mitzrayim. And like the Mashgiach always used to say, and he always said, whenever somebody tells me don't worry, that's when I know I have to start worrying. Tell me don't be afraid means you got to be something to be afraid about. I'm going to make you a big nation there, and I'm going to go down, and I'll take you back up. And Yosef will even put his hands on your eyes when you're dead. He'll close your eyes. So, like, I'm dying in Mitzrayim. He knows that. Okay. So, who got up the next morning? Not Yisrael anymore. Vayokim Yaakov be'Be'er Sheva. Yaakov got up. Vayisu b'nei Yisrael es Yaakov aviyim. But the children didn't hear the dream. So they're still the b'nei Yisrael. They're carrying, we're going down to see the king, whatever. Yosef is a king there, and we're just paying a visit. And they carried who? It's Yaakov Aviyim, the father Yaakov. They didn't carry Yisrael anymore. So we went down. Okay. They took everything that they had in Mitzrayim, and they went down to, from Canaan, they went to Mitzrayim. And he says they took their families with them. Now, it says over here, starts off naming the children. So it starts from Bnei Reuven, Bechor, Yaakov. We spoke about why he always says the word Bechor when he mentioned Reuven, because he was the true Bechor of Yaakov. He was the first Zerah of Yaakov. And he goes through all the names, and he counts up the differences, and it says there were, what do you call it, 33. Right, there were 33 B'nai Leah. That's what it says. Well, if you count them, there are only 32. But it says 33. Okay, we'll talk about that. Then it counts B'nai Zilpah, 16. But what doesn't call her a Shifcha now? Before in Vayishlach, it called them a Shifcha. Shifchas Leah. Here it says, just that they gave no more slaves. So they graduated a step up in their being part of Yaakov's family, and it could very well be because both Rachel and Leah are dead, so they now graduated to at least be Pelakshim. Now they didn't become wives, but they became Pelakshim. So but no more slaves. Why do I say that? The Rachel we know died. Leah, because when he tells him to go bury me, when I buried the Moshe Machpelah, and there I buried Leah. When did you bury Leah there? So obviously before we went down. So obviously the two wives are not there anymore. So he took the two Pelakshim, the two Shifchas, made them Pelakshim. Okay, then it goes, counts up again. He called everyone coming down is 66. Bnei Yosef is the time is 3. So all of them coming down is 70. 66 and 3 is 69. Not 70. I mean, we can all add that way. So the interesting part, Yosef, Rashi asked the kasha in the beginning, not over here. The over here is an easier part. Here I have to sit down and count the names to know if it was actually 32. He said, there's so many names, I assume they know how to count, and they counted right. But over here, it's definitely wrong. 63 and 3 are not 70. So, 66 and 3 is not 70. So, they should have asked the kasha over here. So that, I think, could be that if we would ask the kasha over here, and you want to tell us that it's, who was it, Oh boy. Moshe's mother, Yocheved, was born Ben Absalom. She got born when they entered Mitzrayim. That's why they counted at 70 that came, because she actually was there but didn't leave. 60, only 69 left. So that's why they counted at 70, but you wouldn't know it's from Leah's family. So therefore, if you counted, you can't guess it over there, where you're counting the people of Leah's family, you're only counting 32, and it says there's 33, so now you know that it's in Leah's family that this one is missing. So that's why he asked the kasha over there, not over here. Even over here would seem to be a better kasha, it's more obvious, but I think there's the reason for it. Anyway, he sends Yehuda to open the yeshiva. Many years ago, I attended the Chanukas Habayis of Telz. They were building a magnificent dormitory for 800 Bachrim. It was something when he went Wycliffe, going back before we started the yeshiva. And the Motel Katz with Rosh Yeshiva gave a speech that why they need such a magnificent edifice, because the Yaakov Avinu sent Yehuda and not Levi. Normally, who should you send? You send the Rosh Yeshiva. Levi's going to be the Rosh Yeshiva. What are you sending Yehuda for? To build the yeshiva. He says sometimes you need Malchus. Okay. So that's the reason they did it. Okay. Rav Motel Gifter, at the time of the Gifter, said to me even better. Says they need it. He says years ago when we were in a building, a second-hand building from the Pythia, the Knights of Pythias, and what do you call it? Had to fix it to make it into a yeshiva. You tell the guy, leave your son, don't take him into college. Leave your son, he can meet me. He's such a good guy, he can become a Rosh Yeshiva. So the guy takes a look around and says, that's what I need to become Rosh Yeshiva, this little building here. So, but now if he comes to Rosh Yeshiva and the guy takes a look around and says, that's not bad. But Rosh Yeshiva is a nice big job. Okay, so then maybe they'll leave him. Okay. But the reason I think that maybe they needed something more, not just so much that, he needed Malchus, because he had to push through the thing. If Yosef would have realized the dream, and he went down to Mitzrayim, he would have been planning for his brothers to come. So he would have already gotten an area, he would have built the yeshiva ready. Nobody coming there yet because they didn't have the thing, but everything is in place for the thing there, and therefore he would maybe, the attitude of the people may be more conducive to bring in the yeshiva, and that it would have been more successful, because obviously it was not successful. I mean, they made the yeshiva, but when they went out of Mitzrayim, only 1/5 went out of Mitzrayim. Well, that's the largest number is 1/5, and we need much smaller. So that means we lost the majority of the nation, 4/5 of the nation there. So obviously the yeshiva was not successful. They said the reason was because you're starting right when they come down, and it doesn't really work that way. You see that from the first place Hamikdash, the Hesder, and when they went down with Galus Nechanya, 11 years before the real Galus came, they set up the Galus. They made the yeshivas, they made the shul, they made the neighborhood, they made whatever it is that had to be done. So when the people came, they moved right into their regular areas, and therefore they was able to continue with the life of a Fumiyid. But if it wouldn't have been for that, they would have been integrated with everybody else in a similar, even with the situation that they had, there was a lot of assimilation took place. So of course, if it would have been mamish with the Goyim, it would have been complete assimilation. But over here, he didn't, so he didn't prepare them. So Yehuda had to prepare in 15 minutes, he's got to have a yeshiva in place. So we figured he's a tough cookie. He's a guy that's going to come in and give orders and this and that, and then he'll come into place as much as can. And that's what he did. Okay. And they're coming in and they meet Yosef. Yosef comes out to greet them, and it says that he doesn't kiss Yaakov. He goes, he gave, and he speaks to him right afterwards. They say he was learning Krishma. That's why he didn't kiss him. And there's many reasons why he was learning Krishma. Everyone says that he wanted to give Shvach V'Doy HaKadosh Baruch Hu before he meets his son. That answer it's an answer, but I'll tell you what I think it's missing in it a little bit. I remember I came home from yeshiva the first time. I was in Telz. I haven't seen my father in a year. And I walk into the Beis Medrash, and it was just before Mincha. It was the end of the first Seder, but they were still learning, so I got 10 minutes to go on a Seder. So he just says to me, come outside. And I go outside with him, and then he gives me a kiss. He said, I don't want to kiss you in the Beis Medrash. Okay? So he didn't want to kiss me in the Beis Medrash, so he'll kiss me outside the Beis Medrash. I mean, he didn't just forget it, that, I can't kiss you here, so therefore I'm not going to kiss you. I'll take you outside. I can't kiss you now in the middle of Krishma. I finished Krishma, I'll kiss you then. Why don't I kiss you then? So it doesn't really answer the question. Just tells me why I was learning Krishma. So in Masechtas Ketanis, it says the time is because he was choshed that something happened to Yosef in Mitzrayim. Now, you say, okay, he was a very nice-looking boy, they shteitach, and that's why Moshe Tifar wanted to start up with him. So he could have been thinking, who knows what happened to my son there, if you're saying there's a guy, the Mitzrayim or what do you call it, he must have been doing some things there. But that's only a supposition. Why should he think so bad about us? So you got to say that somehow Yaakov recognized something, either with a smell, or they say Mashiach is going to be able to don denteris with his nose, meaning something it doesn't smell right, something like that, which normal people can't. It's not a normal thing that you can pick up, but some things you can, and it's the most sensitive of all organs. So, you can pick up, it doesn't smell right. I can't say what's wrong with it, but it just doesn't smell right. There's something wrong with it. And that was the Mashiach be able to pick up. And that was Yosef, Yaakov saw Yosef, something just it's not perfect. If it's not perfect, I'm very happy to see you, and I love to see you, and everything is not perfect, I can't kiss you. But he had to have an excuse for Yosef. He had to have an excuse. So he's learning Krishma. And from then on, never arose, a situation, we're talking about this, we're talking about that. We never really got down to, I got you your kiss yet, And therefore, when he dies, that's when he kisses him. When Yosef kisses Yaakov at that time, because he never kissed him all those years that he was with him. So exactly why they don't bring down that lotion, I don't know. Maybe Rashi didn't have it. I can't answer you. Because they say who wrote the actual Masechtas Ketanis, or the Chacham Savroi. So they organized it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, one says I wanted. So now he's telling him, okay, I got to present you to Paro. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you, but I want you to tell them that you're Rayetzoin, that you're shepherds. Why? And not only from this generation, our parents were also. Why? Because you'll say, Amanachnu Avasenu Ba'avur Sheteshu Be'eretz Goshen, that you're living in Eretz Goshen, Ki Soyavas Mitzrayim Kol Rayetzoin. Mitzrayim hates people, or it's disgusting to them, anyone that's a shepherd. So in other words, you're asking us to belittle ourselves in the eyes of Pare, that he should leave us alone. Now, if you're big guys and they want you to marry with the rest of the people, you'll bring your big things will come into our nation. But if you're so low lives and so like that, so who needs you? Who wants you? That was his plan originally. And we see he lived like that, because we go back to Parshas Vayigash, in the Miketz, it says that when he came to them, he invited them to his house to eat. So it says they gave him to eat by themselves. Yeah. He fed him by Sima Loy Levade, they gave him to eat by himself, Lehem Levadim, by them themselves, Mitzrim Hoichem Levadim, and the Mitzrim to eat by themselves. Ki Lo Yilchlu HaMitzrim Lechel Sivrim Lechem. The Mitzrim could not eat with the Jews, with Ki Soya Vasila Mitzrayim. It's disgusting to Mitzrayim to eat with anyone who eats meat. So they were all vegans, so therefore there was no such, they don't eat meat. So therefore, this design. So that's all we see. In other words, the reason for it, I guess, is if a foreigner becomes on top of them, it's a bizayin. Like, because this foreigner, get rid of him. You need one of our own. I'm only an employee. You guys are all better than me, but you're using me because I happen to run an organization better than you do. So you made me president, but not because I'm any better than you. I'm worse than you. Forget, I'm not even a mensch. Anything there. And I think the English used that when they came into India and to China, that they will always look down upon as barbarians and so on, and then they can run the country, because as long as you appear to be you're the big shots, so then they get upset about that, especially if you're outnumbered. If you're stronger than them, okay, so they'll try to join you like by the Greeks. But the normal thing is what's this foreigner doing here? So that they would have fought. So therefore, he's telling them that we're going to be treated differently in Mitzrayim than the plain people. So if that's the case, then you have to have some kind of reason how it can be done. So you serve the country. You're the, what do you call it? Like, you want to treat the president like that? Technically, too. He is the chief executive of the country. His job is to make sure the country runs. Now, who's he doing that for? Me. So I'm the boss. But he gave him powers, so we'll have to listen to him, because then he can do what he has to do. Otherwise, he couldn't do what he has to do. But it's really, we gave him all this authority. It's not something that he deserved or whatever it is, so that we can live with it. And Baruch Hashem to leave the Jews alone. Okay, he did that, and then yeah. But here's a pasuk I don't understand. I can't even translate. I don't even know how to translate it. Eretz Mitzrayim lefanach. Eretz Mitzrayim lefanach. Eretz Mitzrayim is in front of you. He lefanach he b'meitav haaretz, in the best of the land. Hoishiv esavicha v'sachecha. Settle your father and the brothers there. Esnachta. The pasuk is Mem Zayin Zayin. Vav. I'm sorry, Mem Zayin Vav. Esnachta. Yeshvu be'Eretz Goshen. Who's Yeshvu be'Eretz Goshen? So I say I don't know how to translate it, but you see, Paro's intention is they should live in Mitzrayim. Meanwhile, let them live in Eretz Goshen. but I want you to make sure that they move into Eretz Mitzrayim. What it would be similar to us if the guy has his weekday house in the summer and the weekend house. The weekday house, he goes, he leaves his family, and he goes away to work in the city. Doesn't bother going every day, it's too hard, and he comes home for the weekends. And then he has to have a good apartment in the city, so that's the Meitav Haaretz. Meanwhile, in the city, you're going to meet all everything that's plus about Mitzrayim, everything that will make you want to integrate into Mitzrayim is going to be there. The stores, the things, everything what you're going to be. So ultimately, you're going to marry into Mitzrayim, even though you're living technically in Goshen. That's what he wants. So I want you to stay there. But meanwhile, they can stay in Goshen. But I said, I still know how to translate it. But that's the only thing that makes sense to me, at least, that why there's an asnacht in the middle. Okay. And then Yosef brings Yaakov to Pare, and he gives him a bracha, and the bracha is that the Nile should always rise when he comes. In other words, for irrigation purposes, he will be the power that gives the river the power to rise, which is a point where all of a sudden later on he thinks to be a deity, God, because look at the power I have. I make the river rise all the time. It came from the bracha of Yaakov. That was the guy. The old man gives me a blessing. What does that mean? Anyway, so he tells him, he asks him, how old are you? So Yaakov answers him that I'm 133 years old. I have my years are little and bad, and therefore I didn't get to be as old as my forefathers, and when they were. Now Rashi and the Turim says there are 33 words in this statement. Yaakov lost 33 years of his life. Now he lived to be 147. If he would have been 33 more, he would have been 180, which is the year of the Avis. Avram was 175 because 5 years he died before when Esav became a Rasha, so you shouldn't see Esav. Yitzchak lived 180, and he would have been 182. 147 and 33, he would have been 180. The question is, why did he lose the leg? All he said was, then he asked me how old I am, so he answered, he says, you think I'm an old man because I look old. You should know I'm a young man. And the reason I look old is because I had a tough life. So what's wrong with what he answered? I mean, he seemed to have answered normal answer. So why that? It seems to be like he's complaining, and he's saying that my life is tougher than my father's life was. That's what he said. It's tougher than him. Yitzchak Avinu had a tougher life than you. He had a son, Esav, and he had to live with it. He had daughter-in-laws that were what he called, and he had to live with it. And he saw Yosef being sold, and he had to keep quiet and live with it. So he had a very rough life, Yitzchak. But he still lived it. He didn't complain. He did what he had to do, and he made it. You're complaining? You're complaining, of course. Okay, so the price was on 33 years. Now, Shvi starts a very interesting setup of what happened in Mitzrayim. The first pasuk is Vayeshev Yosef is of Vesechav Vayitel Machuz Be'eretz Mitzrayim. Again, he did what Pari told him. The Meitav Haaretz, he gave him the best pea Be'eretz Ramtzes and Eretz Ramtzes. Where Kashatziva Pari? It does not say Eretz Goshen here. It says, I gave him in Eretz Mitzrayim the best piece of land, which was in Eretz Ramtzes. That's what it is. It does of Chayru. Why when it made Goshen? We talked about Goshen before. So obviously, it's not the Goshen. That he had to do. And then he goes in and he gave food to his parent, to his father and his brothers. He fed them. Now he goes into the problem with what happened to the Egyptians. There's no food by anybody, and they they emptied out, that the lands of Mitzrayim and Canaan became very weakened, and Yosef collected all the silver, means all the money that's in Eretz Mitzrayim and Eretz Canaan. That he connected. So now he's got all the money. How many years did it take him to do this? We'll see. It took him in the first year this happened. So what was the setup? I mean, he's trying to save Mitzrayim, right? So, you're not saving Mitzrayim. You took away everything from him. So the first year, let's see what he does. The first year he has all the money. Then he brings it into Paro. All of a sudden, then they have no more money, so the Mitzrayim came. So why didn't the Canaanim came? No, we'll see in a minute. Okay, well, they came to Yosef saying, "We have no more money, so give me." Yosef says to them, "Give me your sheep and stuff, your cattle." Okay, so he gives him for the cattle, and now he has Olohem basusim, bamikne, hatzayin, mikne habaka, v'chamayrim. He has all the stuff. He's given all the cattle they have, all the animals that they have. So he now controls all the animals that are in Mitzrayim. And now they're broke again. This is still their first year. Vatitem Hashonashi, that year ended. So they cleaned out all the money and all the animals. And they said to him, now they started. They said, we're not going to hide for you. We don't have any money. We don't have any animals. So the only thing we can do is that we only have our land and our bodies will be slaves to you, and you'll take the land. And you just keep us alive. So basically, what happened now is, and this is what he did. So in the second year, he took everything. The third year, there's nothing left. There would have been hunger for the third year. It's only because he made the deal. You have 80% and 20%, and maybe I'll give you enough to keep you alive because I need you to work the lands later on to make more money for me. But that's about it. He had no plan for after 2 years. But what is he going to feed them? Why would he feed them? And the Mitzrayim, basically, also, what did they expect is going to happen? Now, it could happen, or it should have happened maybe. We'll talk about maybe why it didn't happen. In Iraq, I remember during the first Gulf War, they were talking about the price of gas in Baghdad. Gas in Baghdad was 2 cents a gallon. Why? Because they produce oil. So the people, the citizens of the country, get the best thing. The largest producer of oil in the world is the United States, I believe. How come we pay so much money for us? And it's very funny. What happened? Which oil do we use? We use imported oil. Where does the American oil go? They export it. Hey, what about us? At least in Texas, the money should be like that. Even there, it's not that cheap. So the same thing is here. What would you do with the if you have grain? What is it supposed to be for the people? Maybe they still did that. That's the only thing I can think of. That we saved it for the people, so that of course, now that I own everything, so I don't have to keep my own slaves in good condition, so they can work for me. So, what did he accomplish with that? By the way, I think he accomplished something in the sense of what a king is. The European history used to be that the King of France only had what's called the Ile-de-France, which was the city of Paris and a little bit of land around it, and that was his. The dukes, like the Duke of Normandy, had a tremendous piece of land. In other words, that's why he became the King of England. He invaded England, had a big army, whatever you think. And this he had even in English, and then when the War of Richard of the Yorks and the Lancasters, there were dukes that have bigger armies than the kings had. So what made him king then? I mean, there's guys that are stronger than me. What made me king? Because the people, when they needed a king originally, got together and they decided that the smartest guy or the most organized guy or the most whatever, the toughest guy, we're going to make him king because we need somebody that's going to make sure we have a fair thing going on in the world. There's a section, I'm not talking about where it is there, but there's a place where a lot of their builders are all shaykhs to the place, to the authority, to the who they put into office. They're the ones that put the guys into office. And over there, it's they have constant backups. You know, what do you call it? We have traffic. We have a log jams. So you can't get through on the street. I mean, you have it's either one lane and you got the hundreds, 10,000 cars, 50,000 cars. I mean, you're going to take you an hour, 2 hours to get through to the place. So, assess everybody a hunk of land and make a second lane, right? Push the seichel, right? Who are you going to assess? I'm going to put you in office. I'm your buddy. How can you take my land? You think over there, and you still have one lane. And this is one of the big problems that you have. So you need a boss. You need somebody to come in with power and stuff, and he's not afraid of anyone. So we give you all the power of strength of office that you have these extra powers. In order, you're not afraid of anybody, and you're going to furious whatever you need. So this is what they made him king. But he, in reality, was just equal to them, just a regular guy. He was first among equals, if you want to put it like. That was his power. But the dukes and the they use the street language. We don't even know their names. Or the King of England now, we really know their names. We know there was Windsor. Was it always Windsor? It was a different name once. It was a German name. But the idea is that he's the King of England. I don't ask you for the second name. The Queen of, just the Queen in Holland, I don't know, whatever it is, whoever's there. But what's his second name? Who knows what's the second name? Who knows the first name? Charles this. Why only the first name? I mean, what do you... Because I am England. I am Suffolk. I am Norfolk. I am I own everything. I don't need my name. My name is irrelevant. I am what the place. I am it. So now, Pare, by owning all the land and all the people, he is now Egypt. It's a different type of a king. Before he was a king because they let him be king. Now I'm a king because I own you all. You all belong to me. And it's a different type of king, a different type of power. I guess more legal, if you want to call it that way. The old king. So a lot of midrashim become difficult because it is, the power of what he gave him, or that was what we will see later on, what there is in public shmais. Okay, and what did he do? And he then shifted all the Mitzrayim around, and they lived in different places. And so therefore, what he gained with that came the normal logic of Sancheiriv and I guess Nebuchadnezzar, probably Kirish, that they used, those king until Alexander, they exchanged populations. So therefore, no population lives in its country. Therefore, you're not afraid of revolution. We have troubles with the Palestinians because they claim they're Palestinians, right? The ones that moved out of Palestine have no shaykhs to Palestine, and they're not interested in anymore. The Baruch Hashem making a panosa, I'm living over here, and I don't need all this stuff anymore. So what makes it there? Because it's my land. When the Irish, and then we want our land. You don't need our land. I live in America, I don't need our land anymore. So you don't need a land. So that was his idea, that you make it there. The reason he did it, says Rashi, because when his brothers will come in and live there, they will become, the people will always say, you're a guy, using the derogatory terms, but you're a kike, what do you call it, you don't belong here, you're a grinner, you just like came over, and this is the grinner talking about the grinner, because I came 2 years ago and you came this year, so you're a grinner, I'm here already. So this is like you put you down because you're not with us yet. And he wanted to avoid that for his brothers because they're coming into Mitzrayim, so he made them all gerineh. Okay, so really, if you take a think about it, this is the United States. What do you have in the United States? Who owned the United States, supposedly, whatever it was? Were the Indians. Now, were they ever in one place? Maybe not. So we took away from them. They roamed over a big area, so they had, what do you call it? They put on reservations. But everybody in America is really an immigrant, or the son of an immigrant, grandson, great-grandson, somebody, but we started somewhere. We didn't belong here, and we all came here. So the Jews that came were just equal to everybody else. So what did the Jews do? They took over many seats in the Congress, many governorships, many mayorships. What do you call it? They owned the media, they owned this thing, and whatever they came, they took over the power of the place. They moved in. Why? Because they weren't discriminated against. In Europe, they couldn't do this. In Europe, they were discriminated against. So they couldn't do it. But in America, because everybody is a ger, so we all can do it. So in a way, that's why they were very successful in Egypt. Because in a way, they were the only ones that were able to open up businesses and things, because everybody's an Eved, everybody's in agriculture. And we're the only ones that are free to do things. In America was because we had more the acumen to be able to do these things. But there, simply, we were free to do these things while they weren't. And in order to that, we took over the country. That's why it says at the end of the Seder that they took hold of the land. The last words in the Seder, that they took hold of the land. So it was a very important keach that they took here. This was it's the only 2 times, I think, in history that we were actually permitted this equality. We were offered equality other times too. In Rome we were offered equality, in Greece we were offered equality. That's if we'd accept their ways and become part of them, we'd be citizens of Rome. But if, as long as we remained ourselves, they don't want any part of us. Okay. And by the fact that that the Kaimer, the priests, had this deal that the country must supply their food. In other words, they're on their thing. So anything that they own automatically is profitable. So they never were starving. So therefore, they didn't have to sell anything if they had land or whatever it is there. So the Jews priests had the same thing, which was the Levim. So they were they were independent. They had to be supported by the country. Okay, so now Paro has a tremendous amount of money to negate to next week to understand what it is that Yosef did for Mitzrayim. Did he really do anything for Mitzrayim? Something to think about. He saved them. He didn't starve. Yeah, but he made more lavadim. Took away all the money. Took away everything else. So that's something good. That's not good. Huh? So we'll talk about what the good is. I think he made an infrastructure with the 20%. Money, he had all the money already, so he needed more money. So what did he do with the 20%? Just like we have tax now. And with the tax, you build things, what do you call it, whatever it is. So that's what he did. So he accomplished something for the country, even though they were avodim. And the things they made them into, because they didn't really feel they were avodim, because there was the same freedom they had before, just have to pay 20% to the government. But as far as but by doing that, he defeated his own purpose. I think that's what he did. He wanted them not to feel uncomfortable. So he made this thing that the world, but by not feeling uncomfortable, they may become part of Mitzrayim. Because what keeps us separate is because the Goyim don't want to deal with us. Not that we don't want to deal with the Goyim. And that's a lot of times, that's what keeps us separate. Now, it works the other way too. In other words, that we don't want to have it, that lasts one generation, lasts 2 generations. But the Yetzer Hara of what it means to be free, part of the nation, a loss of restraint of the ganze Yetzer Hara. Remember, my door was the 50s, if you want to call that. The 50s was a generation of family-oriented people. It's family, religion, it's all. We had trouble with the going because but basically there was such things as blue laws. There was a lot of things that were a nuisance to us. But the people were a finer type of person. The 60s was already the free love and the hippies and what do you call them, the flower people and whatever it is there. How did it change so fast? So really, the guys looked at the young guys, the old guys, and they said, I wish I was like that. I don't have the guts. Like, I wasn't brought up like that. But once the heta was made, you all jumped into it. And that was the thing. They're looking at the Yetzer Hara, so therefore the same thing goes with a Yid. Right now, I'm your boss, but I like your Chatzmah party, I like your New Year's party, I like what happens over there, that we don't tell anybody what happens over there, and what they go, but if you go to Vegas, stays in Vegas, all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, there's a Yetzer Hara to be part of it. I don't want to be the staid person I was. And they said, and if you see it all the time, it's going to have it. The first time it's mius. Second time you take a peek at it. The third time already you want to get in there. The fourth time you walk in. I mean, that's what happens to people. So the fact that we have this shaykhs, it's a very dangerous thing. Now, we definitely have as I said, spread out into the world. Many companies are owned by Yidden now, with the payas even, and the what do you call it, and that's in the construction business with the roughest people all you can think of. And because they know business, so they can buy out these places and stuff like that. And but you're also dealing with rougher people and stuff like that. And whatever it is, so however they should be able to hold on. That's it. And they get the support by supporting yeshivas and shuls, whatever it is. They keep that attachment. What you said by Yankov Avinu, when he made the Tanai, he asked the bench, whatever you give me, I'll give you back 10%. Right? So why should I give such a deal? I say, bench, and give me 90% what I deserve. You give 10% because you know which is the right guy. I don't know which is the right guy. You know which is the right guy. So you give him the 10%. So what do I need? Why are you picking me? Then I should have to give it. Because I need you to attach yourself to the former place. Now, so if you give them your money, so then they mekarev you. They mekarev you in this thing, so you don't go off the deep end and stuff like that. So you have to keep that thing that's going to keep you in the right spot. That's what Yankov even made that tonight. If you want me to make sure that I don't go overboard with the Gashmias, then I have to be able to I have to do that thing. The Haftarah, I think, is just the Haftarah is the I guess the culmination, this one, of the end of the two Malchusen. And the two Malchusen really started out from here, from Yosef and Yehuda, two strong leaders, and they were clashing their heads, and this continued into the Bayis Rish, and we became into two kingdoms, and with Yosef in the end will be like Yehuda. You just want to go back to one point of before, which may come next week anyway, but we'll see. Talked about that Yosef was not Michael's brothers. There is a Bein Bachai in next week's Seder that talks about that the brothers, why they all of a sudden say we'll be a slave and slave like that, because they saw that he didn't forget about it. Because when he passed the bar where they threw him into, which is a little bit questionable what that meant, but we'll talk about next week how he saw that bar, because it's north, not south. But anyway, he saw the bird and he made a bracha. God saved me from this place. Made a nest for me here. Okay? So they saw he's still angry at them. So because still angry at them, they have to take some kind of bubble meiser that Yankov Avinu told them to say the sorry, or whatever it is there, whatever. They didn't say the word sorry, but Yankov said there will be avodim, or he said you should treat us nice, and whatever. So Ben Bachai says over there, it's because he never was Michael's brothers. And it happened that in Torah once, or an argument, basically something came to the Rosh Hashiva, two people, and I don't know what happened or what was the case, but this is what supposedly happened, that at the end, when he said they're friends, so he says to the guy who was wronged, say, I'll Michael you. So he said, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's fine. And he said, say I'm Michael you. It's okay. He said it's okay, right? Say I'm Michael you. The guy didn't want to keep saying it. He didn't want to say the word I'm Michael you. I can live with you, but I'm not Michael you. So he says that was what happened by Yosef. Therefore, he was never Michael then. They always, I could live with you, we can get along together. But I've still got my anger at you, I still got it behind in my head, and that's why we have this problem. And he says, so therefore, if you have someone, don't move. That's not enough to say, okay, it's okay, don't worry about it. You have to say, I'm Michael you, because that ends it. That makes it, it's over. Until you do that, unfortunately, it's not. Bein Shlom, though, took the Yosef and they took two sticks, whatever, they made into one, meaning that there's one that's going to come, Mashiach's time, it's going to come only on the Malchus Yehuda. And it will be in the second base on Mikdash, whatever Malchus we did have was Kohanim. It's not even that it shaykhs to, not Yehuda, not to Yosef. It was Kohanim. So, and then the Romans, so whoever was Gerim, whatever you want to call them, who this is family. But technically it's called Malchus Chashmonoi. Okay, and anyone have a good Shabbos and a healthy Shabbos. And Yetz Hashem, we'll see you next week.